All right. Okay. Are we recording? Yes, we are. Cheers. Welcome to the show, you guys, to another episode of Cut the Shit, Get Fit. I'm your host, Rafał Matuszewski, and joining me today, kind of for the first time, in a sense of like, this is your first interview on my show, the one and only Angel Santos. Say hello.
Hi guys. Happy to be here.
This show is going to be a really special one because number one, we're drinking beer, which I've never done on a show, so that's pretty cool.
Good to know.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, am I recording this properly? Yes, I am. Okay. That looks weird. Ever since I updated my laptop, everything is a little bit different and it just looks off, but it's all good. I think we're good. Anyway, for those who don't know, my wife and I are huge fans of alcoholic beverages. We kind of make it I would say a priority for every weekend to either have like a beer that we haven't had before, go to a brewery, try out some local craft beer, or, you know, try different imported beers from Europe to see what they're doing. And, you know, Germany kind of knows what they're doing with their beers. Or we kind of go down the path of like, let's make some fancy drinks like Manhattans and Mai Tais and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of one of our hobbies. So we thought we would bring it to the show today. And I'm going to try not to talk as much as possible because you're going to be the guest of honor on this show.
We'll see how that works out.
To start things off, we're going to make this really easy for you. We'll do some I'm going to lob some questions to make it easy. What is the current TV show you're watching? You don't have to say what we're watching because obviously
just me by myself.
Yeah.
I am currently watching the latest season that they have on Netflix for Grey's Anatomy. It's just insane. The stories, sometimes the reason I'm saying I'm rewatching is because I had to stop because it's so crazy, but I don't know, I kind of like watching it. I like seeing people wearing their scrubs and doing their things to help people. It makes me feel like that's the next step for me, even though that's going to be completely different and there's going to be no crazy airplane crashes or buses driving into the emergency room where I'm going to be working, because clearly that's not going to be me, but it makes me feel like that can be something I can look forward to, kind of. So yeah.
But it's funny that you brought that up because it's I can't remember if I was watching it with you or if I was just near you while watching it, but I remember there was an episode where one of the main characters was driving to the airport. He saw a car accident, tried to save the people in the car accident, and then he got hit by another car or something.
Yeah.
It just kind of kept going, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
It's so dramatic.
That's actually, that was one of the main characters that left.
Yeah. Okay.
But no spoilers for anyone who hasn't watched it.
Another good question is, I usually ask what, you're going to be doing this weekend, but we're kind of living the weekend.
Yeah.
So let's maybe kind of backtrack of what we did yesterday and what we did this morning that was super spontaneous that we never do.
Just to preface, Raph and I are really bad at being spontaneous. We try, but I'm a really big planner. Raph has somewhat molded into that as well, and so whenever we try to be spontaneous, it never really works out. But yesterday, man, yesterday was really good.
Yeah.
Why was it? Why do you think it was?
There was in the morning I walked Misty, our dog, and right on the front steps of our place there was a dead crow and I think there's some sort of like superstitious.
It was weird
thing.
because when he told me that, I was like, oh my god, is that like a bad omen? Like, are we just gonna have bad luck all day? But
I guess it like reversed for us, and we tried to be spontaneous yesterday, and it worked out so well.
So beautifully.
Because we've had things where we're like, you know what, we need to be more spontaneous. Let's go do this thing, and it never works out, and it's just like, let's just go home.
Yeah.
So, tell the audience what we did yesterday.
Well, yesterday we had plans to go meet up with Raf's aunt and uncle, and we were going to go to this new brewery out here in Langley. So we met up with them, and it just so happens that they were telling us that they just recently purchased this like new like inflatable like paddleboard / like kayak that they can use, and we're like, oh, that's so cool. And then I saw the opportunity. I was like, maybe one day we can like hang out and like do things with you and like bring our dog, because like we've never had Missy out on the out in the water. We don't know what it's like. And I like planted the seed, and it worked. They were like, yeah, we should do it today, and like we did it. And then at like 7 p.m., like right where the sunset was coming, like we were out on the water like paddleboarding, and I had Misty out on the water as well, and she was scared, but she was like, but she liked it. Like she came back for a second time. Mm-hmm. And then we went out for Indian food after. It was just perfect. It was good.
And then like this morning, out of nowhere, we were like thinking of, last night we were thinking about, okay, maybe we should get like kayaks and paddle boards, but we're like, realistically, how often would we do it? And like, should we like quit while we were ahead with this whole like spontaneous thing? So we were like, maybe we should get bikes. And then out of nowhere this morning we go and buy 2 mountain bikes. So now we have mountain bikes. So here we are. Here we are.
But we said we should quit while we're ahead. We shouldn't push our luck.
Yeah. So I feel like we can talk about random stuff all the time. And I think what we need to get into, the reason why I brought you on the show is because you are now in your 4th year of naturopathic medicine. You're going to become a naturopathic doctor.
Really soon.
And for those people who do not live in BC or just in the West Coast that know what a naturopathic doctor is, what they do, and all that fun jazz compared to like the East Coast and maybe, I don't know, in the UK it's probably not as popular. So we're going to kind of backtrack to the moment that you finished your first undergrad and you were like, I want to become a doctor, don't know which route I'm going to go. So let's maybe start there of why you decided to go down the route of naturopathic medicine. Boom!
This is not really, like, I used to think that this was a heavy hitter question, but it isn't anymore. Like, I was definitely having to think and choose between going like the traditional allopathic medicine route, and I didn't even know about naturopathic medicine really because I didn't grow up with it at all. And so we had 2 our friends who graduated from there. I asked them about it, and I was like really intrigued because like naturopathic medicine, I was like, this is so different from what I know medicine to be. And so I just kind of did more research. Like I attended some of the like student for a day sessions that they had at the school out in New West, and I just read more and more, and just kind of like fell into place. Like it just made sense as to what, like how I would like to practice and how I'd like to treat people, and it was kind of a no-brainer. Like it was a struggle figuring out like, is this what I want to do, like, you know, but once I got in there, once I signed up, everything just fell into pieces, and it was great.
Yeah, I think you're kind of selling yourself short in a sense of like, there was so much back and forth of like,
oh totally,
do I want to become a medical doctor? Do I want to become a naturopathic doctor? And it was just like literally back and forth.
It was, like I said, it was a struggle, like going back and forth. At one point, early in my like decision making, I was like, you know what? Okay. And this might sound really vain, but like, people don't know. Maybe people don't know what a naturopathic doctor is, and maybe I'll be like, maybe I should just go become like a regular medical doctor. I'll just do it. I was like, I'll study for MCATs, do what I need to do. But it didn't really feel right. It didn't sit well with me. It was more just like, it's easier for people to understand, but it's just like, why am I thinking about what other people care about or whatever? And so I was just like, yeah. But honestly, my favorite part of this telling the story was like when I took the student for a day, I attended a class, botanical medicine, and learning about some of the herb names. It was like, oh my god, this is like as if we were in Harry Potter and learning all of the herbs, and like it was so cool. And I was like, this has to be it. So it was like small little moments like that where it's like, this is awesome. This is so cool, and like, yeah, it just made sense.
Yeah. So I'm gonna shelf that Harry Potter thing because we're both huge geeks on that. But I wanted to bring up what you said was like, you almost chose the harder direction because you knew that a lot of people wouldn't know what it is.
Yeah.
It's not really the traditional route because a lot of people where, you know, if they decide to go to the medical profession, it's kind of like, I'm going to become a doctor. Like, that's like cream of the crop. Like, that's what I'm going to do. But you're also limited as a general practitioner of what you can do. Yeah. So you almost challenge yourself even more.
Totally.
Because the naturopathic profession is always kind of like under fire, like some people don't believe it's real, whatever it is, but you chose the harder route. And I think for the audience listening or watching, we always have those situations where we're at a crossroads of like, what path do I choose? And a lot of times people kind of look at, okay, what's going to be the easiest route for me? Because, like, you know, if you went with a medical doctor, became a general practitioner, you can literally just walk into a full load of patients, make tons of money, boom, done. But as a naturopathic doctor, you literally are a practitioner like a physio or a chiro, where you basically have to learn how to build a business, build your own patient load, market yourself, X, Y, and Z. Like, there's a lot more to it. And I think a lot of people tend to, like, when they get to that crossroads, they want to like go on the easier route and then eventually figure out that, you know, if I actually went with my initial thought and like intuition, I'd be a lot more happier. And like, again, we're gonna try to bring this all together full circle of like why this is related to health. But I think when it comes to career stuff, a lot of people always kind of look for comfort, but we don't grow as human beings unless we're a little bit uncomfortable and getting out of our comfort zone. But I don't know where I'm going with this.
But you know what, honestly, like, that's really funny because before I even decided I wanted to become a doctor, do you remember I had to sit down with you and I was like, what am I gonna do? Like, I'm in the middle of my undergrad. Like, I had an idea of like, okay, I want to be a teacher, but like it wasn't quite enough. And we had a conversation and I was like, you asked me, well, what do you really want to do? I was like, whatever. I want to be a doctor because that's awesome. That's the best thing that I can do. But I can't be a doctor. I'm not smart enough. I can't do it. It takes too long to do it. I'm already like, I don't even remember what age I was. I was like, I'm too old to start now, and I'll be too old by the time I finished. And when are we gonna have kids? You know what I mean? Like, those are the things that came up. But then I really appreciate because you kind of pushed me out of my comfort zone, because I was like, oh, I'll just be a teacher. It should be fine. I'll just do this. And like, while that would have been a fulfilling career, it's almost like I would have settled. And like, you're the one that pushed me out of that comfort zone. You're like, yeah, you just do it. And so I have to thank you, honestly. I don't know if I think we've had this conversation before, but I credit all of this to you pushing me out, honestly, pushing me out of my comfort zone, because I am really the girl to sit in my comfort zone. I really like the things that I like the things that I know, and you're the one that was like, you should try this, and I did, and look at where I am.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are kind of like that. It's like if they don't have somebody influencing them to kind of get out of their comfort zone, they're going to just stay complacent or whatever it is. But I've seen, like, even my industry where people will be in the same career for 20 years, absolutely hate it, and out of nowhere they're like, you know what, I go to the gym every day, I love training, I love like meeting people at the gym, I'm gonna become a trainer. They go full 360, well 180 to flip around, and just change careers out of nowhere. And like worst case scenario, like if you have such like a lofty goal that's so high up there, like go for it, because the worst that happens is like you don't make it and realize maybe I'm not cut out for it, but then you at least don't live with like, what if I decided to do that? What if? And I literally had this conversation with somebody a couple days ago, trying to figure out what they want to do with the rest of their life, and they were kind of like leaning towards the easier route. But I'm like, say you go down that easier route, and you're there, you accomplish whatever it is, but now you always have in the back of your head like, what if I decided to do the harder route, right? So, yeah, I don't know.
You need friction in your life.
Yeah, 100%. Next question is going to be like, for a lot of people, because I have people all over the world listening to my podcast where maybe naturopathic medicine is not that known. So maybe kind of give the Cliff Notes version of like, what is naturopathic medicine?
This is a heavy hitter one for sure. Naturopathic medicine, well, how I see it, because I have to look at it from my point of view, right, is it gives people so many different options on how to work with their bodies and promote their health. Because, and again, and I hate that it always compares to like a naturopathic doctor versus like an allopathic medical doctor, but it kind of like, but that's what people know, right? So if you compare the two, they're the same, but like a general practitioner, they're the same, but we just have more tools that we can use. We have botanical medicine using herbs, which is kind of similar to what Big Pharma uses for their synthetic medicine or drug prescriptions anyway. So we use herbs that are natural, but that doesn't mean that it's safe. It can still be toxic and stuff like that. So we learn about that. So there's botanical medicine. We have traditional Chinese medicine, which is like it's just like a whole nother thing. We just, like, us as naturopathic doctors, like, we know just the tip of the iceberg of traditional Chinese medicine. We know acupuncture. We can do moxa, cupping. We can do like some like diagnosis like of the like different like organ systems and the meridians, but like, oh my gosh, that's just a whole nother thing. And so which is really cool and something that I would like to learn more about, like pulse diagnosis, tongue diagnosis, like those are so cool, but like we just need, it just takes time and practice. And so it's something that we are continually learning, even now that I'm a clinician. But so yeah, we have traditional Chinese medicine that we have in our arsenal. We have naturopathic manipulation, which is basically like being a chiro, like all those mobilizations and adjustments that we learn. We have nutrition, which is kind of like what we're mainly known for. We can use, what else? I mean, we have counseling, which is also amazing. Like, we have the time to be able to sit with our patients, and like sometimes you don't need to just give them like something to treat like their symptoms. It's more just like, do you need to talk? Like, get it out there. And sometimes half of it is that it's just mental, emotional stuff that needs to be let out. And so that's why I think, like, that's why I fell in love with naturopathic medicine. It's like we have so many options that we can give our patients, other than just, you know, giving them the smallest thing. Like, I mean, this is the worst example, and I hate to do this because that's not all like that general practitioners do. Like, they don't just give prescription, but sometimes they're limited to that. Like, that's because they only have the small amount of time to see their patients, and they hear what the symptom is and they just give that. Whereas like, we have a little bit more time and we want to figure out what is causing the symptom versus how can we get rid of the symptom, because that's not it. That's just a band-aid. We want to fix, we want to help. We don't cure, because we don't cure. Your body can do that. We just help the body and we just nudge it along to help cure, like figure it out itself. Like, and it can do that. So that's why it's so cool. Like, honestly, I can talk all about it, and it's like all the things that we can do. It's just so many cool things. It's just cool. I think I nerd out about it. It's just like, it's so cool all the small things, small and big things that we can do.
Yeah.
It's amazing. There's so many options.
So that's, like, I'm really happy that you kind of brought up all the little different things that you're able to do, because a lot of times, even when I chat with my clients and patients of like what you're learning in school, they have no idea that, you know, naturopathic students get to learn those things. So like you brought up like naturopathic manipulations, like chiro adjustments, like most people don't know that you can do that, at least here in BC. I don't know if other provinces or other states or wherever an ND works, but like for the longest time when you were learning them, like our coffee table was a chiro table, and it's like let's practice over and over again, and like that's freaking cool. But most, like at least NDs here in this area, don't really use that skill set. But it's like, you know, you can find an ND that does that, and you know, you get some musculoskeletal treatment, and you know, that's pretty freaking cool that you get to learn that. And like acupuncture, like that's pretty cool to be able to do that. And again, I've been a guinea pig. It's good and bad at the same time. Like
It's good.
it is good, but maybe let's talk about a little bit about what kind of acupuncture you do, because like again on my show we've talked about IMS, traditional Chinese medicine, acupuncture, but like maybe talk about the difference between IMS and...
To be really honest with you, I don't know what IMS. From my understanding, from what we learned, IMS is similar to what we do, but I haven't gone that route of like finding the differences. But like for us, what we learn about the different organ systems. So like for example, we have like the TCM, traditional Chinese medicine, like lung organ, and that is corresponded with a meridian. And so if we find that, and each meridian and each point in the meridian, because there's like over 300 points, each point can be like, it could be a local point. So like if there's a point, like for example, the easiest, the very first one that we learned is large intestine 11, and that's the first point that we needled, which is in the corner and the elbow. And it's like, okay, well, you can use that point if you have like just locally, you know, if you have elbow pain, whatever. But then you can also use that point to clear heat in the body, which is like, that doesn't make that, like if I said that to you, you'd be like, what the hell does that mean?
Yeah.
But like, it's just, it has all these different meanings, and then you look at, based on that meridian, you look at the actual organ, what is it, what is the job of that organ, and say if you talk about like large intestine, the TCM large intestine, it's the organ that is in charge of letting go. So if you have a lot of things that are built up, or like, you know, like emotionally, mentally, even like physically, use that point, maybe not specifically that point, but like if you target points along that meridian, that'll help you to let go, whatever that means to you. And like, doesn't that sound kind of crazy? But it's also so cool, and you just dive more into it. And anyway, but like what I'm trying to say is like, it's not just like, okay, from my understanding, IMS, you target a muscle and you like stimulate that muscle. We can do that too. Like there are points in the large muscles in the body that you can trigger specific points. You don't even need to follow the meridian. You can just do ashi points, where just like you feel around and you ask the patient, like, is this like tender there, and they say yes, and that's where you needle. So it's kind of like a trigger point as well. So like there's a very big overlap, but I think it's more just like philosophically, what does it mean? That's what's different. But I've never looked into IMS, which I am curious about it, because it sounds very similar, but we target meridian points versus IMS is just, I don't know, actually.
But the one thing I wanted to get into is like the, I guess, energy component of acupuncture and how that relates to where the meridians lie and things like that. But again, like, correct me if I'm wrong, like the yin and yang type of thing, but there's a different way to pronounce it properly than like Westerners do.
Yin and yang.
There you go. But I did have someone on my show, and I feel totally bad that I can't remember his name. But I literally probably interviewed him 3 years ago. And he's one of those people where I think he has like 2 PhDs, a couple master degrees. And he's one of those people that kind of looks at all these different things related to our health and sees if they actually work. And he went on this like rabbit hole of like, okay, TCM, meridian lines, like, is it bullshit? What's going on there? And he found a device where it will pick up like electrical like currents and things like that. And he did like a little self experiment with other people and things like that, where they would follow the traditional like TCM meridian lines with this device that will basically have like a needle where it'll stay at 0 if there's no like electrical current, and then the moment it hits it, it's like boom, out of nowhere. And every time they went over a meridian of every like TCM point, it just like the needle like skipped like crazy. And he was like, all right, so I guess we're like onto something, which is like pretty cool, because like I think that whole like traditional Chinese medicine is based more on like energy stuff.
Totally, it is energy healing.
Whereas like in the Western medicine, it's like that's kind of woo woo for me.
Right?
Yeah.
I know. For me, like woo woo is like there has to be a reason why it's been going on for thousands of years.
Yeah.
And it's been helping all these people. So, like, yeah, sure, it's woo woo to you, and people are all about like, you know, evidence based and all that stuff, and there's no research. But sometimes it's like, well, if you look at someone and you do this and it helps them, that's your proof right there.
Yeah.
If somebody feels better from a treatment, I'm not going to be like, well, research said that it doesn't actually help you, but so you're lying, or I don't know what it is. But like, you know what I mean? Like, so the whole thing is helping people.
Yeah.
And if it helps them, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing.
Yeah, it's like when people that I train, at least, like I get them to foam roll every time they come see me. And when people ask, like, what is it doing? And I'm like, honestly, it's not actually doing that much. But you get a response of, like, ooh, that thing is tight. And it feels pretty good going on it. Oh, shit, this is really tight and this is painful. But we do something to our nervous system where it creates, like, a change. And I always tell, like, clients that if you find something that makes you feel better, like, keep doing it. Like, even if research doesn't like support it. And I've had this like, because like at my clinic we do cupping all the time, and it works so well on nerves being entrapped or like whatever the case is, low back pain, amazing. And I remember doing a post like a couple of years ago, like when I first got certified in cupping, and I'm like, here's what we do in the clinic. And I literally had like an argument with a dude online saying that it actually doesn't work, not supported by research, blah, blah, blah. And it was like a back and forth, and I'm like, this guy's not going to back down. So I'm like, you know, thanks for contributing to the thing. But at the end of the day, if something makes someone feel better and they have like crippling chronic low back pain and we put a cup on them and they're like, wow, I feel so good and like the whole week is great. And I'm like, why would I want them to stop doing that? Like, you know, but I don't know, that's our world today.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a huge issue. It's just like evidence-based versus there's a lot of things that you can't really do research on.
Yeah. But the other thing I wanted to get into that I think most people don't know that NDs can do is like injection therapies. And that's like a whole nother thing that you kind of haven't dove into, but like at least here in BC, because again, everywhere else is a little bit different, like you could get to a point where you're doing Presale injections, PRP, even Botox, even filler, even IV therapy. So maybe chat about like those options. Like I look really forward to like you being able to do IVs, because like I've had IVs in the past and I felt amazing after. But I don't know. Let's maybe start with IV therapy and kind of go from there.
IV therapy, I mean, we can do them in clinic. We were certified in school, but to be able to do them outside of the school, we still have to do several other courses to do it, but I mean the most well-known IV therapy is the mini Myers, which we were just like practicing on each other, and I was like, I loved doing it. Like I loved getting it. But my partner had a hard time getting a vein, so sometimes I didn't get it. So, but it was really fun. And so you have like the Myers cocktail, which is like magnesium, calcium, B vitamins, and it's just like an amazing thing that just boosts your energy. And there's other combinations. Now we're learning about the different ingredients that you can add in, but to be honest, we haven't gone into it yet because just we're still learning about it. And so like so far we can do IV therapy, and usually the Myers cocktail is just for kind of like boosting energy or boosting the immune system. It's very general, but most people are pretty deficient in most of these minerals. So you got like the B vitamins. I mean, unless you're not taking a complex, like a B complex, like you're pretty deficient, especially if you're not eating the vegetables that most people, I mean, most people are now, but like there's still people who are like, yeah, McDonald's is the only thing I'm gonna eat. And so like those people they would benefit from having a Myers cocktail. And you know, the vitamin C and magnesium and calcium, like those are great for you. And again, it could be lacking, and especially magnesium. People need magnesium so much. So, yeah, I love IVs. I'm sorry, I don't remember what your question was.
Me either, but like I already realized that we're already past 30 minutes, and we wanted to keep it under 30. But maybe one of the last questions would be, when should someone see a naturopathic doctor?
Before they start feeling something. I would say, if you want to optimize your health, do it before you start feeling symptoms. But most people don't do that, right?
Yeah.
People will go to see a doctor when, not even right away when they start feeling something. It's more just like, oh, I've had this thing for 6 months. I thought maybe you should see it. But so like, while that's fine, that's great that you came in, it's better if you come in and optimize your health before. But again, not realistic. Not everyone can do that. You know, if you have we can treat any acute issues we can help with, but we are really good at chronic stuff. Things that are like long lasting, things that you're like, what is this? I don't know what it is. I went to my medical doctor. They don't know what it is. They just kind of brush it off saying it'll be fine or it'll go away on its own, but it hasn't gone away. That's what we're really good at. I feel like we're like detectives, and we will continually like look at every aspect of your life to figure out what is causing that one thing, or maybe not even one thing, like several things that's causing these symptoms coming up for you. So yeah, come in before you have issues, but even if it's after, I mean, it's like we can see you for anything.
Yeah, it's kind of like when we get people in the clinic to see our chiros, where it's like, my back is so fucked, I can't move, fix it. And then like after a couple treatments, like, I still feel pain, why isn't this working? It's like, well, you could probably have come in like beforehand to kind of like get some maintenance done, get some tissue change, maybe start exercising. Like those things can like prevent your entire back from exploding by picking up your sock and now you can't breathe and you're on the floor. So I kind of look at it the same way as like a naturopathic doctor is like, let's prevent you from getting like terrible heart disease or whatever it is. Yeah. Like, it's preventative medicine, and like you said, even if it gets pretty bad, like there's other options. Yes. Other than constantly taking drugs or surgeries or whatever it is. And that's just like my profession. Like, my hip hurts all the time, I'm gonna go get a hip replacement. It's like, well, let's like let's like work on other things before we get to that point. But maybe for the last question, if people wanted to find you online, because I know you're on social media.
I am. I kind of feel a little bit embarrassed, but so I started off. So I'm in my 4th year now. In my first year, when I first started, I was like, I'm going to document every single thing, every single day that I'm in school, what I learned that day, or like the most important thing that I learned that day. And I did that up until 2nd year. And even the last like month of 2nd year it was hard to get it through because it got harder and harder, of course. But yeah, so I've documented all of my second year, like every day up to my second year, and then for my third year I'll just kind of wrap up like quick big things that I learned. But yeah, so you can find me at ND Student Santos. I almost forgot. ND Student Santos on Instagram.
Awesome.
That's my baby that I kind of neglected. But I will be taking the summer to kind of revamp it because I have a little bit more time now, thank God. But yeah.
Awesome. So thank you so much for taking the time to sit down and drink beer and answer random questions that I decided to ask you. That's it for this week's episode. I haven't had like guests on my show for a while.
Yeah.
So this was awesome. So thank you. This was amazing. And let's cut it there. See ya.
Bye.